I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Planning Commission for the City of Southfield, March 24th, 2021, conducted via WebEx teleconference. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Here.
Mr. Huntington.
Present.
Mr. Martin. Don't see Mr. Martin. Miss Me is excused. Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Present.
Mr. Willis.
Here.
And Mr. Griffiths.
I'm here.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum to conduct business this evening.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Through the chair, this is Commissioner Rob Willis.
Go ahead.
I would move for approval of agenda as presented for dated March 24th, 2021.
Support, Commissioner
Huntington.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Willis, supported by Commissioner Huntington. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Jeff?
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Yes.
Mr. Huntington.
Yes.
Mr. Martin. He's still not on. Okay. Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Yes.
Mr. Willis.
Yes.
And Mr. Griffiths.
Yes.
All right, sir. You have approval for your agenda this evening.
Okay. Do we have any announcements or communications?
We do have a large number of items on the agenda this evening. A number of them do include public hearings, along with site plans or special land uses. For any public that might be currently either on the line or listening through our cable channel, when the time comes for the public hearing portions, we will the chairman will open up the public hearings. We'll give you an opportunity to call in. You'll have 3 minutes to make your statement, but we would ask that when you do join, that you give us your name and address for the record. Again, because of the number of public hearings, we would ask that anyone who does call in, that you mute your phone, your computer, whatever device that you're on, until we come to the point for the public hearing which you're interested in. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that's the only thing that I have this evening.
Okay, thank you. So the first item is the capital improvement plan review.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Planning Commissioner should have received a copy from Planner Mullally for the most recent CIP. Again, we've been through numerous reviews of this, the capital improvement plan, and we are just looking for this evening if there's any additional comments that the planning commissioners might have. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a recommendation on the CIP to take to the City Council in April.
Okay, commissioners, any other outstanding items?
No, not for me.
I think it's an excellent, to the chair, this is Geraldine Stevens Gunn. I think that this is an excellent plan and I recommend that they move forward.
This is Commissioner Willis. I support that wholeheartedly.
Commissioner Culpepper, I'm in support also. Great job by the presenters. Recommended exactly what they needed to have to keep the city running. So I agree with Commissioner Gunn. I support this 100%. Thank you.
Is Commissioner Martin still not on the line?
Yeah, I don't see his name, sir, either on the participant list of panelists nor in the attendee list.
Okay. I agree with everybody else. I think this is thorough and well put together. It's I've reviewed a few of these now. They're getting better and easier every time, it seems like. For us, I know it's a big job for everybody else. Okay, with that, we'd be looking for a motion.
Yes,
Or-
sir. We need a motion, a second, and then we'll have a vote.
Okay, as Commissioner Huntington, I'd like to make a motion for favorable consideration for the capital improvement plan.
Commissioner Willis, support.
All right, we've got a motion for favorable recommendation by Commissioner Huntington, supported by Commissioner Willis. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
And Mr. Griffiths.
Support.
Okay, thank you, Commission. As I had noted, this item will go to the City Council on April 5th as a review item, and then I believe it will then go to the full council at a regular meeting on the 12th for what we hope will be a final approval. So thank you for that this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jeff, just with the public hearings and the associated site plans, I know we need to open the public hearing, but we're gonna take both items together, I assume?
Yeah, through the chair to the commission and to the public who might be listening to the petitioners, what we'll do is staff will present the entire case. So if there's a rezoning request and a site plan, like our first item this evening, we'll present both the rezoning request and the site plan at the same time. However, because a rezoning request does require a public hearing, the chairman will then have to open up a public hearing. We'll have the public hearing, close the public hearing, have discussion, and then a vote before we would then move on to discussion and a vote on the site plan. We do have one item this evening that actually has a rezoning request, a special use request, and a site plan, all for one property. With that one, again, we will present the entire case, all three of them, but then we will need to open up separate public hearings for the rezoning, a separate public hearing for the special land use, and then we'll deal with the site plan. So we'll kind of help you through that process, sir, as we go through the evening. But yeah, staff will present the entire case first, and then take each item separately as we move forward.
Thanks, Jeff. All right. So this will be for PZR 21-0002 and then PSP 21-002.
Yeah. So this item is the rezoning request and site plan review request of SLP Holdings LLC. So this is the property located 27522 Northwestern Highway. This is the Copper Canyon site, which is along Northwestern Highway, and we're east of Telegraph Road. The current zoning of the property is RMU. That might sound a little strange. RMU is multiple family zoning district high rise, but this particular property is part of a consent judgment, landmark consent judgment from a number of years ago. I believe it's from the 1980s. So this particular property was part of a consent judgment that allowed for the use of this property as well as a couple of other ones for an office use, 2 restaurants, and then a hotel. So this particular piece of property was part of the landmark consent judgment. And in order to do what the petitioner would like to do with this property under the site plan, which is to convert it to a market, they would either have to change the consent judgment or request to be removed from the consent judgment and rezone the property. And so that's what they're doing this evening. They would like to rezone the 1.828 acres from RMU multiple family high rise to B3 general business in order to allow the market type use. The site plan portion is to convert the existing restaurant to the market. They would be adding on to the existing building. So the total building build out would be 14,465 square feet. Originally, this market was going to be just north of the New Soul Garden restaurant, which is directly across the street from this particular site. They had intended to use the parking lot there and then put this market there. But when this particular piece of property came available, it was larger than what they would have been able to put on the New Soul Garden site. They decided to move forward with the potential for rezoning and then for the site plan. This is a close-up of the property. You can see the existing restaurant portion right there, along with the parking lots. This property is in rather poor shape. So actually, this would appear to be a really good plan to actually dress up the site, bring the site back to life with a brand new use. Current zoning of the property, at least from a future land use, is regional mixed use. As I noted, the property is currently zoned RMU, and on the right side, the zoning that they would like to go to, which would be B3 general business. From a site plan standpoint, this is the proposed site plan. As I had noted, they are expanding the building both on the north side and on the east side to increase the square footage up to 14,000 square feet. Site plan does show everything that we would request and require: pedestrian connection from the Northwestern Highway, public sidewalk onto the property, the barrier-free spaces, as well as a public access from what would be the property across the street, the New Soul Garden site, onto this site, should people want to go from that particular property, walk across, and then come to the market site. This is the landscape plan for the site. Again, it's a huge upgrade to what is currently out there. Elevations of the site, different color scheme, outfitted new with facade, and more in the colors and the keeping and the style of the New Soul Garden restaurant across the street. Floor plan. And with that, if there are any questions or comments the Planning Commission would like to make at this time, we can do that before we move into the public hearing.
Okay, Commission, any starting comments before we open the public hearing?
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
First of all, let me say, Rebecca, I think you did an outstanding job on the presentation Monday. Laid out exactly what you guys are going to do. And what I am grateful for is that you got the homeowners association buy-in 100%. They in favor of this project. And so I'm glad you took care of that as you did previously. Also, I think the landscaping on this property is outstanding. It would definitely revitalize that whole area in there. And also the elevation is looks good also. So rezoning this to a B3 general use is a perfect example of how we can really beautify certain areas if given the right direction. So Rebecca, great job, and thank you 100% behind this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Culpepper.
Okay, through the chair.
Yes.
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Go ahead, Commissioner Huntington.
Okay, I just want to say too, yep, that's really going to help that area. The area's been looking kind of there for a long time, but it's going to make a big difference. And I like the flow around the area, as far as the sidewalks and the way people can flow around and to the property and to Northwestern Highway. So I think it's going to be a great project for the area. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to recognize Mr. Martin. Just want to confirm that you are online now, sir.
Alive and well. Sorry for the delay.
Great. Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I saw your name, and I just want to make sure that you're acknowledged, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no other introductory questions, and we could save some of these comments for the site plan portion. Commissioner Gunn first, please.
To the chair, I was just going to comment and say I'm looking forward to this development. I think it's a good idea, and I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. Commissioner Martin.
Mine's for the site plan. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we'll open up the public hearing. So at this time, we'll open up the public hearing. Jeff, could you please give the process on calling in again?
Yes,
The right
thank you.
numbers?
So for the public who might be listening in, either on the telephone or watching cable, this is a public hearing for PZR 21-0002. So this is to rezone the property, the 1.828 acres from RMU multiple family high rise to B3 general business. The slide that's up on the screen right now has the information for call-in. It's 1-415-655-0001. And then when prompted, add in the access code 129-531-6001. And then you'll be able to get into the meeting. We ask that if you do have comments on this rezoning, that you state your name and your address for the record, and then you have 3 minutes then to make your comments. With that, Mr. Chairman, I do see a number of people on the line. I don't know if they're specifically for this project, but we do want to at least let the public know that they can start to call in now on this particular site if they'd like. With that, if there's anyone on the line right now that has any questions or would like to make comment with regard to PZR 21-0002, and again, just this project only, you can feel free to state your name, your address, and then make your comments. Mr. Chairman, we'll just give the public a couple of minutes here.
Okay, thanks.
So while we're waiting, this is Planner Crowd again. This is rezoning from RMU multiple family high rise to B3 general business. We're not talking about site plan issues at this time, just the merits of the rezoning itself, as Mr. Spence had indicated.
And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that there's any public for this item this evening.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing for PZR 21-0002 at this time. Remind me again, do we give the applicant time to introduce or further introduce the project, or is this the commission?
Yeah, I would say if the petitioner has any other comments, she can make those at this time.
I'm going to ask Rebecca to maybe hold off until the site plan portion, if you could. Let's, through the chair, let's act on the rezoning first, and then we'll give the applicant an opportunity to talk about the project itself.
Okay. Commission, any comments on the rezoning specifically now?
I have none.
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
I think the rezoning makes a lot of sense, and it's gonna definitely help that area. So I'm all for the rezoning.
Is that a motion, Mr. Huntington?
Yes, okay. I would like to make a motion for favorable consideration for PZR 21-0002.
Commissioner Culpepper support.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say this was a messy consent judgment. I didn't really understand it, so it makes a lot of sense to me to clean up this type of zoning. So with that, we have a favorable recommendation by Commissioner Huntington and supported by Commissioner Culpepper.
Correct.
If there's no further discussion, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Mr. Martin, how do you vote?
Why don't we move on down here and give Mr. Martin an opportunity to either get reconnected or Dr. Stevens-Gunn,
Support.
Mr. Willis,
Support.
Mr. Culpepper,
Support.
Mr. Huntington,
Support.
Mr. Martin, we'll come back to you.
Can you hear?
Yes. Mr. Martin. Mr. Griffith.
Yes, support.
All right. Yeah, we'll move from this item on to the site plan, but you do have 5 votes in favor of PZR 21-0002.
Okay. Thank you. So on to the site plan, PSP 21-0002. And now if the applicant could fill us in on a little more flavor of what the project is all about.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman Griffiths. My name is Rebecca Lazarus, and I'm here representing my client, the developer SLT Holdings. I want to thank the commissioners and Chairman Griffith and the planner, Mr. Crode and Mr. Spence, for allowing us to this opportunity to come before you again tonight to explain this exciting project. The site plan before you is the second phase to the New Seoul Plaza development located at 27522 Northwestern Highway. This property is formerly known as the Copper Canyon Brewery. As you know, this property has been vacant since 2014. My client and a longtime Southfield business owner, SLT Holdings, is very excited to redevelop this property into a upscale international Korean grocery store. It will be named New Seoul Market, and this will be the sister building to the New Seoul Plaza family of businesses, which is home to restaurants De Bak, Jinji, and Miyomi, which are located next door across the street. The building will have similar look and feel as the New Seoul Plaza, both interior and exterior. We will use like materials and follow similar color palettes to give the area a unified and upscale, inviting appearance. Since we last presented to this honorable body on March 3rd, we have made a few upgrades to our proposed site plan, and I just want to point those out to you. First, we've indicated and added 4 dedicated parking spaces for convenient online customer grocery pickups. These spaces are located at the southeast corner of the building between the market and the hotel. Secondly, SLT is committed to sustainable business practices. We are installing LED lighting throughout the whole building using energy efficient refrigeration systems, and we've added 2 electric vehicle charging stations. These electric charging stations will power 4 vehicles simultaneously. The dedicated spaces are located along the southeast corner of the building adjacent to Northwestern Highway. Third, I want to address the question regarding public art. We are in conversations with a local Detroit Korean American artist named Michael Han. He's Korean born, South Korea, and we have commissioned him to design 2 sculptures for public installation, one at New Seoul Plaza in front of the door entrance, and the second located at the entrance of the New Seoul Plaza at the corner, the southwest corner of the property line. As soon as he has some designs created, we will submit the sketches to the city planner for approval and comments. Fourth, regarding the status of the 1972 consent judgment release request, in December of 2020, we presented our proposal of the market to the Riverbank Homeowners Association, which is party to this to this consent judgment along with the city of Southfield. Through written ballots, the association members unanimously voted in support of SLT being removed from the consent judgment. So they have already signed it, and we are now going in front of City Council on April 5th, and we are anticipating that they will also agree on that day. We truly appreciate the city and the Planning Commission for their support of this market development. So in case you have any technical questions, I have invited our architect, Darren Zabari from DAS Design Group, and civil engineer Patrick Williams, and landscape architect George Ostrowski, I'm sorry, George, and they're both from Norwalk and Frous Engineering. Together, we humbly ask for your approval on the site plan so we can continue to successfully execute this project in a timely manner. Thank you, and we will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Commission, questions or comments?
City Chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
I think this is a perfect site for what you want to do, and having a sister building right next door to it with the type of landscaping and the decoration that you're doing, I think is outstanding. As previously said, it's great that you have the cooperation from the homeowner association because they know what type of work you do. And as previously said by other commissioners, this will definitely put a bright light on that area, which is greatly needed. So I am in 100% support of this site being approved. And again, great job on the presentation, Rebecca, and to your team. So I'm in support of this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Rob Willis. I think this is a perfect situation, but I'm curious, you have property that you are going to put this building on. What do you plan to do with that property?
Oh, the property behind the restaurant?
Yes.
Yes. We have actually gone through administrative site plan approval on removing the building location to the new location. So right now, what we're going to do is we plan to develop that area, but it would be after we finish the market. And right now, we're going to put green space back there and more parking, because the restaurant needs more parking, as just the placekeeper right now. And then once we have time to focus on that, and we've got some other ideas up our sleeve, possibly, but I think it might be a little premature to announce those in public at this moment. But we are definitely going to redevelop and look at the best use of that land behind the restaurant. But I'm sure everyone will be very excited to see that plan come to fruition after the market has been opened.
Rebecca, I look forward to it. I thank you.
Thank you.
I believe,
Couldn't understand that. Who? Any other comments from the commission?
To the chair, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Martin. I'm sorry, I keep having problems here. If I remember correctly, in the floor plan, you're doing the floor plan, correct? Site plan?
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Martin, can you speak a little closer to your microphone, please?
Mr. Crow, Mr. Martin is calling in through my phone, and my phone is next to my speaker.
I see. Okay.
I don't know if I can get any closer.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll also try and raise my voice a little bit. If I remember from the floor plan, you will have sampling of food items in the store. Is that correct?
Yes, we actually, where the checkout is, we will have an array of foods. We will have, that is actually going to have glass garage door openings there, 2 of them. So we'll be able to open the market up, let fresh air in, and possibly have food that could be, prepared and taken home right from the market.
Okay. One of the reasons I ask is during the
detrimental.
They moved the laboratories from the back to the front right side, the door to the left. And now, if I remember correctly, you're putting them back in the back of the building where the new extension will be. Is that correct?
We're actually putting them next to, they would be along the east side of the building. We're right there. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. The floor plan, you can see where they're located. We have a walk-in beverage cooler, and the bathrooms are in that small little hallway right there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because I frequented that location quite a bit, and I know that the plumbing up front is screwed up. It's the drain pipes are broken and it's not usable. That's why we just want to make sure you're moving the restrooms to the back and won't be dealing with that problem for your customers. Okay,
thank you for that. I'm sure, we're doing somewhat selective demolition, but we're pretty much going to bring it down to its studs in concrete base, and the area actually where the bathrooms are, if you remember, there's like a little nook there. There's a patio there right now. So we're actually going to square that corner off, and that's additional. So that would be all new plumbing right there.
That's great. I think this is a great idea, and I commend you on foresight to use that location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question. I'm sorry, I missed one of the other meetings. This was part of a consent agreement. You've gotten that out of the consent agreement, correct?
Yes. We just need the city to give their final approval.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments, Commission?
I'm getting a lot of feedback.
Commissioner Culpepper, Huntington, any additional comments?
No, nothing else, Chair, for me.
Commissioner Gunn?
No, I shared my thoughts previously.
Okay, excellent. I will say that this is it's a very nice site plan. Obviously a huge upgrade. Excited to see this. Appreciate the electric vehicle charging and the green initiative. I appreciate you putting that right out on Northwestern Highway where a lot of people can see it when they're driving by. I think that's good for everybody, good for marketing. I have to imagine that this was a little bit of a tough site for other businesses considering it because of how do you get to it. But I like that you have this campus and this draw that's going to bring people to the area, and now you're further expanding it. And this is going to give you a lot more presence, I think, than the building in the previous location, as has been stated. So I think all of these are positives, and I'm glad that this project is going to happen. It looks like a very interesting, very nice project. The other building looks great with all the improvements, and excited to see this happen.
Thank you very much.
Upper Canyon Brewery a little bit, but hopefully we get another one similar. It's been a long time.
You need to come into the restaurant and also the market, because we have an array of imported beers and wines that I'm sure you'll find something that you like.
I may be interested in that. Excellent. All right, Commission, may I have a motion?
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
or a recommendation?
The recommendation.
It's a great idea, Jeff. Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, so the Planning Department recommends favorable consideration of PSP 21-0002, the site plan review request of SLT Holdings LLC to convert an existing restaurant to a market related to New Soul Garden containing 14,465 gross square feet. Let me stop there for a second because I just want to get to, there it is right there. Property located 27522 Northwestern Highway, north side of Northwestern Highway between Bell Road and Telegraph Road, for the following conditions. It's subject to council approval of PZR 21-0002 to rezone the property from RMU multiple family high rise to B3 general business. Landscaping must be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, unless the season of the year does not permit installation. In that instance, a bond must be submitted to the building department to cover the cost of installation, and a temporary certificate of occupancy shall be given. Upon completion of landscaping and approval of the same by the planning department, the bond will be returned and the final certificate of occupancy shall be given. Exterior lighting shall be shielded to prevent spillage of glare onto adjacent property. Petitioners provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant material. Petitioner is to execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscape and parking areas both on site and in the right-of-way, which includes maintenance of any stormwater detention system. Petitioners implement recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Approval of the site plan and or building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department prior to any proposed sign. Bike rack shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, Paragraph 12. The site shall be designed and developed to contain public works of art in accordance with Section 5.22-5, Public Art, Article 4, General Requirements of the Zoning Ordinance. The building is to be constructed in accordance with submitted elevations on sheet P-2.2, and the petitioner is to amend the landmark consent judgment to have the property removed from the judgment. And that ends my presentation on this particular case.
Okay. May we have a motion, please?
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Culpepper, you're first.
I recommend favorable approval for PSP 21-0002.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Martin.
Okay, Mr. Martin.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Culpepper, supported by Commissioner Martin. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Mr. Martin.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Mr. Huntington.
Support.
And Mr. Griffith.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a favorable recommendation for PSP 21-0002.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. I got a pile of papers here, Jeff. What are we going to next? The site plan or the next public hearing?
PSLU 21-0003 for Telegraph Road, along with the site plan that goes along with that, which is PSP 21-0003.
Okay. Have your presentation, please.
I believe that Mr. Bryce will be making the presentation on this evening.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, planning commissioners. This is from petitioner GDP Group on behalf of the owner, RPT Realty. This is for property located at 28550 Telegraph Road. So this is the east side of Telegraph Road between 12 Mile and the Northwestern Highway Service Drive. Currently, the zoning is RS, and we have two items before you. One is a special land use request to allow for construction of a restaurant with a drive-through, and a site plan request to construct a 4,978 gross square foot Chick-Fil-A restaurant with a drive-through. So this is a site aerial. This is the northwest corner of the parking lot, adjacent to one of the drives into the site. So this is in front of the Michaels and the pet supply store. The future land use shows that this parcel is regional mixed use. It's within the northwestern highway corridor sub area, and the current zoning is regional shopping. So this is a site plan. We had a fair amount of discussion with this site plan at our study meeting. The petitioner was able to meet with us and make some adjustments to it. They were able to shift the building a little bit and get us a 20-foot clearance on both sides of the building. They did eliminate some of the parking on the eastern edge and turn that into a two-way drive. Next slide. Yeah, so this is just a site plan with a base map showing the current parking orientation. You can see the new 20-foot access lane on the western edge of the property a little better there. We can go to the next slide. All right, here's a revised site plan with landscaping showing the color. You'll also note that they are installing a sidewalk along Northwestern Highway that provides access into the building itself. And there is a 7-foot emergency access on the north side. We did have some questions at the study meeting about traffic and getting into the site and stacking. So the petitioner did provide us a graphic showing the amount of parking stalls that are being removed for the site. And another big item that came up was the traffic flow. So the petitioner did submit this map. This shows the traffic patterns for the two entrances into the site and directional signage that's going to control the traffic flow. So you can see from the Northwestern Highway, that blue route, cars are to go up to the site, kind of up to Best Buy, and the traffic signage is going to direct them down to the parking aisle on the western side of the site, rather than drive across all of the Best Buy frontage. And then for the entrance just to the north of the site, they will be directed kind of the midway down. So these directional signage, it's supposed to enhance the flow for the site. This is a similar map with cars kind of overlaid on it, showing the stacking. Gives us a better idea of what that might look like. And here's a site plan with some car stacking. It's colored so it stands out better. Here's a revised perspective. So it does show that extra 20 foot on the west side. Here are some existing interior photos, existing exterior photo, and revised elevations. You have the order point canopy and the patio. And we do have a floor plan, shows the footprint of the canopy on the west side as well. So Terry, Jeff, we want to bring in the petitioner at this time. These are kind of their slides right here. Yeah, let's ask the applicant petitioner to take over the presentation. Okay, we do have Alan and Justin from Chick-Fil-A. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves. We do have a few of the slides you requested to be put in right here.
Great. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate your time again tonight as a follow-up to our conversation on March 3rd. So as Kyle mentioned, just several updates that we've made since then. We've partnered with our landlord, kind of locked arms with our landlord, created those overflow plans that you saw. If traffic spills out of our site plan, how will we how would we direct traffic through the entire site? That was one of the things that we heard last time was how will we handle that? How will it impact the other tenants in the development? So we locked arms with the landlord and created that plan for you. So that was good feedback. As Kyle mentioned, we shifted the building to the east to allow another 20-foot bypass lane on the west side and the east side, which satisfied fire marshal concerns. And then we consulted with the other operators in town. So if we stay on this slide for a second, consulted with the other operators in town. Northville and Shelby Township also have a similar design where there's two lanes all the way around the building, and how they're utilizing the design is how it's shown here. You've got 2 cars entering the drive-through. There's 2 order points, and then the cars merge into 1 lane to go around the building and pick up their food. And then they're utilizing that second lane as a through lane or pull around lane. So if you're a car and your car went at the window and you've got an order like $55, you've ordered 10 chicken sandwiches, and it's just going to take a little bit longer than getting a chicken sandwich, fries, and a soda for car 2, that food is delivered back to car 2, 3, 4, etc. They're utilizing that extra lane as a pull around lane. So that was a lot of concern last time. So we wanted to make sure we highlighted that appropriately for you all. And then just to give you a little bit more background on Chick-Fil-A as a company and organization, I think those were some of the slides that you had seen up there, but certainly several awards that have been received year after year from the ACSI, which is the American Customer Satisfaction Index, just about most beloved fast food chain. I won't go through all of that, but I think we did talk about it last time, just the family-owned and operated business. And having over 2,500 restaurants, over 47 states now. And the purpose of Chick-fil-A is to make a positive impact on anyone who comes in contact with Chick-fil-A. So that locally owned operator model is different than any other fast food, quick service, franchise restaurant out there. So as a local owner operator, you get one location, that's your sole source of income. So they're in the store. He or she will be in the store building that team, making relationships and connections with the community, and that's where you see some of these awards and recognitions coming from. So if we go to the next slide, just kind of highlight some of the quality, quality that we use, just the fresh, high quality ingredients, and then another thing that we're known for is just the engagement in the community. You know, hosting family nights within our restaurants. Once we're able to open the doors and welcome everybody back inside of our restaurants, you'll see some family nights. You'll see spirit nights where we'll partner up with a local school, nonprofit organization, community, and a portion of the sales during that night goes to that organization. So those are really popular in community, and you're going to see a lot of that first and second mile service, and kind of known for, it's our pleasure to serve you. We're looking forward to serving a warm meal and a warm smile that everyone that comes to our location. So just the last slide, just a few other stats here. One of the big commitments for Chick-fil-A is to help the hunger across the nation. And, you know, being a restaurant, we've come up with a shared table food donation program where operators are able to partner with local charities and make donations on a daily basis to charities within 5 to a 10-minute drive time of the restaurant. That way, no food is gone to waste. We can donate wholesome meals to these communities. And then the other thing is, every time we open up a new store, there's a $25,000 donation to a local food bank as well. So just more examples of how we partner with the community. Team members are important to us. You can see 60 to 80 team members. As far as new jobs, those will be local jobs. Based on my discussions with the operators in the area, their staff is looking at over 100 to 120 people, just because there's a mix between part-time and full-time. But one thing that I really love is the $75 million donated to over 53,000 team members across the country to foster their higher education. So I was able to participate in a a surprise event last week where all of the team members that were part of that event, they thought they were going to a training, an online training, and our president came on, was able to explain to them that they were recipients of $25,000 scholarship to attend higher education. So just things like that, giving back to the people that make Chick-Fil-A who they are, and all those people are local to the community. So just wanted to highlight some of those efforts and then some of the changes that Kyle did such a great job of highlighting from the last time we met. So happy to answer any questions that you all may have. We're excited about this project and think it'll be something that everybody within the community will be proud of.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, just as a reminder, we do have both a special land use and a site plan on this item. Special land use does require a public hearing. Whenever you are ready for that, unless there are other comments before we get into the public hearing portion.
And again, this is Planner Crode. I recommend that we open the public hearing and close it before we go to commissioners' comments. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any clarifications though on all the changes they've explained to the site plans from the commission before we go? If not, we'll sounds like okay. At this time, this is a public hearing for PSLU 21-0003. Open up the public hearing at this time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, we will leave a couple of minutes for the public to get online should they wish to make a comment. Again, to the public, if you would like to make a comment on the special land use portion, again, we ask that your comment be just specifically to whether or not there should be a restaurant on this site. We will get into site plan issues after this, but the special use is specifically to allow for a standalone restaurant with a drive-through on the property. And I would say if there's any public who is currently online that would like to make a comment, feel free again to give your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes. All right, so again, of the callers that we have on, does anyone want to make a comment about PSLU 21-0003? Hey, Mr. Chairman, we'll just wait a little bit longer here to see if anyone else gets online.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have any new callers on the line, and those who are have not requested to be heard.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing at this time. Open up the discussion on the restaurant with drive-through only at this time. To the commission.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Huntington. First, I want to thank these guys for really doing a good job and listening to us and making appropriate changes for that traffic flow. I think the traffic flow is much, much better now. One of my main concerns was at the drive-through when someone has a problem at the window, whether these cars, do we have a designated area for these cars? But they covered that well. I'm satisfied with the changes that have been made. Of course, there's a lot of traffic in that area, and that's one reason why they want to be there, because of the traffic. So, you know, I like the changes, I like what they're doing, and I think it will work well. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Stevens Gunn. I have several questions.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can we go back to the schematic of with the blue and yellow lines? That one. Okay, can we go back there? All right, I've
And I
got a
think
couple questions.
if this is some site plan comments, we should wait for later, unless this is just specifically to the drive-through. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think if I could, I think these are pertinent questions that she's going to raise regarding the traffic flow. So it's appropriate for us to discuss this now.
Proceed?
Yes, please.
Chair, is it okay to proceed?
Yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Gunn.
Okay, I have, let's start with the first question. The first question that I have is related to the traffic going north on Telegraph, coming off M10, all right? That traffic backs up, and when you're coming off M10, you can't see that the traffic is backed up on the Telegraph and that the merge. You can't see it. If you're traveling 70 miles an hour coming up off that ramp, you can't see what's down below because it goes uphill and not downhill. So I'm concerned about the traffic backing up in that right-hand lane, trying to make the turn at the light to go into the complex. That's number one. Number two, the little road that is between the dealership and the parking lot, that is an older road. It is very small. It is very difficult to. I drive a medium-sized SUV. Two of us can't be. It's challenging for two of us to be there at the same time. Number three, you've talked about the flow into going to the restaurant. You haven't talked about the exit from the restaurant. So if you've got people coming and going and the volume of traffic that we anticipate, again, I'm really excited that Chick-Fil-A is coming to Southfield. I'm really excited about it. But I'm concerned that we need to make sure that we manage it so that it flows well. So those are the three things that I'm very concerned about.
And before the applicants respond, I'll just, if you've had any discussion with MDOT, because this is Telegraph Road is an MDOT road, and I know it's designed to handle large volumes of traffic. And then I did note also that you don't show an exiting diagram. So if you could talk about those couple issues, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So regarding the exiting diagram, obviously cars that are parking can exit through any drive aisle that they've parked in, just back up and leave. If you're a car through the drive-through, that last car, your obvious options are to come up and either make a left, so it would go Page north toward Michael's and PetSmart and out, or you could make a slight right and follow the path that the mouse is following there, and you can duck out at the end at Northwestern Highway. That's a right out from the development, or you can follow the blue line and exit that way through the traffic signal as well. So one of the reasons we devised the inflow traffic plan this way, where you see the red line and the blue line meeting, and we had the cars heading north toward Michael's and PetSmart and then cutting through a drive aisle, is to open up that drive lane in front of the store so there is not a conflict. So we recognized there was a conflict there, which is why we devised the inflow traffic the way you see it on the screen. I think that handles question number 3. Question number 2 regarding the road between the dealership and the parking lot, where you see the blue line. I'm not sure the exact dimensions of that. That is an existing road, but if it's tight, like you said, Dr. Gunn, I don't know what can be done regarding that road. That's an existing access point to the development right now. Regarding number 1, traffic heading northbound on Telegraph, you're saying it's backing up off of M10, and I think Terry, you had asked if we'd consulted with MDOT. The only work with MDOT is via the sidewalk that has been suggested to put along Telegraph Road. but that's our main touch points with MDOT, unless Ellen is our civil engineer with GPD Group, and she's on the phone with us as well. So if you want to add anything to that, Ellen, feel free.
Yeah, we did send this plan to MDOT at the very beginning of the project, and their only comment was to add the sidewalk. So they will review our plans and give us any of the necessary permits, and they'll look at all those traffic flows in and out of this site, any kind of conflict points. So they have jurisdiction over Telegraph Road there, and anything that they recommend we have to do, we will do it, and we will meet their requirements.
Right, and I just wanted to reiterate that they control in and out and traffic control on M10, on Telegraph Road, and they do design this for maximum volume. Could you guys maybe just talk about the red in versus the blue? I would imagine that the red is going to be the primary entrance to your facility, but if you had to put a percentage of how many cars would enter through the red versus through the blue, have you guys figured that out yet?
I don't know if we have a percentage, but I would agree with you, Terry. If you're heading northbound on Telegraph, then the red route seems most logical, right?
Yeah.
If you're heading southbound on Telegraph towards M10, then I believe your only option your main option would be the blue route. So that's why we wanted to show traffic both ways, from northbound and southbound traffic on Telegraph.
Right. That's probably the safest turnaround. I think there are a couple what we call Michigan lefts, but
right.
That's probably the safest way to get into the facility.
That's what I thought as well.
So, Dr. Gunn, I would think since there's a light, that light's going to control the flow of traffic northbound on 10 Mile. And I think that the most difficult thing that I can anticipate is someone's in the westernmost lane and they want to try to get over 3 or 4 rows of traffic. So if they're exiting from the lodge onto M10 and they're not in the easternmost or right lanes, that could be a little challenging getting into the site. But if they do happen to miss that first turn, there's another entrance into the entire shopping plaza further north where they possibly could enter in. I think what they've tried to do is keep the traffic flow on the outer larger lanes and limit the potential conflict with cars pulling in and pulling out in the perpendicular spaces. So overall, I'm much more pleased with this traffic flow than what was originally submitted. Dr. Gunn, you may or may not agree, but did you have any other follow-up questions?
I just have one other concern, and that's at the road between the dealership and the parking lot. If I got my chicken sandwich and I'm on my way back out and I want to go to the post office and I want to make a left-hand turn on the Northwestern Highway, there's not a light there. So I anticipate that it's going to be challenging to make a left-hand turn at that point. But I may be wrong. We'll see.
Well, thank you for those comments. They were helpful.
To the chair.
Yes, Commissioner Martin. Go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
Traffic along Northwestern, where you come to the red line, when you come to the roadway to the north of that, and you get down to the end near the PetSmart and that stuff to make a right-hand turn, there's a stop sign there. So the traffic going along the front of the stores, Best Buy and those, and coming from Lowe's, they have the traffic flow coming from there all the way through the curb there. So where the north line, where the driveway on the north side would have to make a right-hand turn, they have a stop sign there, and I see the traffic backing up there. Or because there's no stanchions or anything between the parking spaces, I see people driving through the parking spaces to go through, to come around to the lane. That I see as a potential problem because traffic would back up at the stop sign and people were going to try and take the shortcut coming through. there's nothing you can do about that. I would suggest that something be done at least with the first row of parking spaces along that north line, so that cars can't just turn right and go through parking spaces into the other lanes, other parking lines. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so Ellen and Justin, you understand his concern is kind of to show the flow north, that area could potentially be a cut through for people trying to, you might want to possibly work with the landlord on bumper blocks or something. But why don't you at least look into it before you get to council, so you can address that issue? Thank you, Mr. Martin, for bringing that up.
One other thing, going along the blue line that you have coming in front of Best Buy and curving around, there's, as pointed out before, that there is an exit there to get onto the northwestern at that traffic light, and that is something that could cause problems, because if traffic, there's only space for 2 cars to come out that exit, and then the street, then it's blocked off. That drive where the blue line is would be driven off by the 3rd and 4th car trying to come out that way. So that's another bottleneck that you have to look at also, because I went through there today just to be sure of what I was seeing, and that the true coming from the Best Buy's direction in any of those stores, once you get up to that cut through where you can come through, is if you get 2-3 cars there, you're going to block the row coming through parking there, coming through from the travel where your blue line is. As far as on the service drive, along the dealership, the biggest problem you have right there is that the dealer parks his cars so that they hang over the parking stanchions, and that cuts down on the lane. That is something that you need to talk to the dealership about, so that they don't have their cars hanging over into the street, because they actually do. And because of the front wheel drive, you have cars with longer noses now, especially the trucks. They stick out to the street and make it a tighter spot to go through for 2-way traffic on that street there. I believe talking with the dealership and having them make sure that they don't have their cars that they park along that aisle hanging over would relieve potential problems for pass through on the traffic on that section of the road. Thank you.
To the chair, this is Geraldine Stevens-Gunn again.
Yes.
I just wanted to share that coming from Lowe's to the street that comes from Lowe's in front of PetSmart, there's a stop sign for those who are going east. If you're coming in front of the Lowe's, there is not a stop sign. They have the right of way. Many times when you're making that curve from in front of Lowe's, going in front of Michael's and PetSmart, people think that that traffic that is going south has a stop sign. They don't. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of that.
Understand.
What I started with.
To the chair, was Commissioner Martin trying to get on?
I just was pointing out that the Lowe's and that's what I started with. I was just telling Commissioner Gunn that's what I started with, right? The traffic there at that corner.
Okay, well, the applicants duly note that that's an issue they'll look into. But thanks for bringing that up.
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
Justin, I just want to say again, thanks for redoing that area. I think the special land use fits by moving that building 20 feet on each side does meet my issue with having accessible lane closes. I know you guys are a customer-oriented place because your vote is one of the best employees around, but there is a lot of concern for the traffic that's in that area. So I had some other questions, but I won't go into that. But Terry, I think judging from what a couple of commissioners said and my comments too, there needs to be maybe a conversation with the landlord on how some of those stop signs are currently situated, because even looking at your drawing, how you got going in and people coming out, you know how we are. We don't follow signs. And what we would not like to see happen is someone have an accident or an incident coming out of their Chick-Fil-A. So I do think there needs to be some conversation with the petitioner and the landlord on maybe redoing some of those signage and stop signs. And I agree 100% with Dr. Gunn about coming into that area by that dealership. I don't know who that lane belongs to in there, but that is hard getting in and out now. And hopefully some can be some coordination or conversation can be had with that to try to do something about that. Because safety should be our number one priority. And this is potentially building up to a safety issue if we don't correct the issue before it go forward. But overall, good job. Looking forward to seeing it go through. But to me, there still need to be some major changes. But thank you a lot. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, this is Planner Crode. I think we have 2 weeks prior to the council study session, and then a couple weeks after that before council is going to be acting on the 26th. So we will ask that the petitioners discuss these items with the landlord and be able to respond to them. I think these are good discussion, good items to be brought up, but I think we can still move forward on this item with the ability of them to respond to us within the next 2 weeks.
Hello, this is Christian Hull with RPT. Can you hear me?
Yes. What was your name?
Christian Hull, Hohl. I'm with RPT Realty, the landlord, 20750 Civic Center Drive, Southfield, Michigan. And we've gone through this with the client, and I think we all can agree at this hearing that this traffic flow that they've created here is much better than the existing QSR, the north side of 12 Mile. This should keep a lot of cars off of the main highway, Telegraph Road, and put them on. And we already have reviewed this with our tenants, and they are all approved of this QSR being at this corner, PetSmart, Michaels, and Alta, which they will be affected by the traffic, and they've all agreed to this plan. So we're hoping that the council will agree that this is a great chain and needs to come to Southfield. And I hope everybody approves it. And we would be happy to work with the commissioners to resolve these minor issues brought up at the hearing. Thank you.
Christian, this is Planner Crode. So I don't want to get into traffic engineering this tonight, but the comment about the flow coming from Lowe's south and then east, will you guys look into the possibility of putting a stop sign that maybe would allow a start and stop for cars going in both directions at that corner?
We'll be happy to work with the city.
Yeah, look at that issue with coming in off of Northwestern Highway and you're with and your neighbor. I'm not familiar enough with whether or not they're extending over their property line or not, but those are two important issues to at least have some type of resolution prior to going to council.
Okay, sorry to interrupt the council meeting.
Thanks for your comments.
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
Yeah, in support of what two of the commissioners said, when you talk to that dealership, you really need to find out if that dealership has the authorization to park his cars over there in that lot. Because as Commissioner Martin said, those cars hang out into the driveway. So, I mean, when you talk to him, I mean, he really got to understand that that is a danger spot. And him parking his cars there creates added tension because they do hang out. They pull them up so close. So that dealership needs to be in accord along with the rest of your tenants in that building agree with what you're doing. But that dealership has a big part in it if he continues to park his cars in that area. Thank you. Just a point of reference. Thank you, Chair.
So, Chair, just to let Mr. Culpepper know, the dealer does have authorization to park cars there. They also have their night, and I think they're using 2 or 3 vehicles there and keeping storage there.
Oh, okay, Commissioner. Okay, I didn't know that, but that needs to be revised or something. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
You're welcome.
Was that all comments from the commission? Okay. We have the planner's recommendation.
We do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to, excuse me, with regard to PSLU 21-0003, special use request of GPD Group on behalf of the owner RPT Realty to allow for the construction of a restaurant with drive-through property located 28550 Telegraph Road. The planning department does recommend favorable recommendation for PSLU 21-0003. Property located on the east side of Telegraph Road between 12 Mile and Northwestern Highway for the following reasons. Subject to approval of PSP 21-0003 by the City Council. Hours of operation shall be limited to 5 a.m. through 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday and being closed on Sunday. Submitted special use with any conditions recommended by the Planning Department and Planning Commission will be of such size and character that will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the RS Regional Shopping District. Location, size, intensity, and periods of operation of proposed use is designed to eliminate any possible nuisance likely to emanate therefrom, which might be adverse to occupants of any nearby permitted use. Proposed use is in accord with spirit and purpose of the chapter and is not inconsistent with or contrary to the objectives sought to be accomplished by this chapter and the principles of sound planning. Proposed use is of such character and vehicular traffic generated will not have an adverse effect or be detrimental to the surrounding uses or adjacent thoroughfares. Proposed use is of such character, intensity, and arranged on the site so as to eliminate any adverse effects resulting from noise, dust, glare, dirt, odor, or fumes. Proposed use will not be adverse to the promotion of the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And then proposed use is designed and operated to provide security and safety to employees and the general public. And that ends this presentation.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Up through the chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Huntington. I'd like to make a motion for favorable consideration for PSL U 21-003.
Through the chair, this is Commissioner Willis. We've had a good deal of conversation. I would wonder if we could approve of this conditionally, and that is if we can get an idea of what's going on between the owner and the developer with some of the traffic pattern. They can get a brief report, brief statement back to us prior to council meeting.
Well, Mr. Willis, I would ask that you that the commission make a recommendation on a special land use. You could add those conditions as part of your recommendation and defer to the planning staff to work with the applicant prior to council. And I can always, at the time of the study session with council, if they're not ready to move forward to the public hearing by council, we can always recommend postponing. But we have worked with the applicant, had 3 separate meetings since your last meeting, and we think we can work through with them on these issues. And so I hope that you would make a favorable recommendation or support the recommendation, move forward with those conditions, and allow the planning team to follow up with the applicant. Thank you.
Mr. Crowe, then I would offer support with the stipulation that we defer to staff for those final issues.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Huntington, supported by Commissioner Willis, with the addition of the one more condition that the planning staff work with the applicants to resolve some of these last minute items. That sounds accurate. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Mr. Martin,
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn,
Abstain.
Through the chair, Dr. Gunn, you can't abstain unless there's a conflict reason. You have to either vote for or against.
I'm still working through it.
Well, we can come back to you at the end of the roll call. Thank you.
okay, Mr. Willis,
Support.
Mr. Culpepper,
Support.
Mr. Huntington,
Support.
Mr. Griffith,
Support.
and back to Dr. Stevens Gunn.
I'll support it with the condition.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you do have a favorable recommendation for PSLU 21-0003.
Okay, thank you.
Now you have the site plan PSP 21-0003.
Can we go back to just the landscape plan while we're discussing site plan issues, please? All right, Mr. Chair, it would be appropriate to go to the commission if they have any questions or comments, unless Mr. Bryce has, or the applicant has any additional comments they'd like to make on the site plan.
Through the chair, we've been working with Noreen for the landscaping. They do have the screening around the drive-through area. They do have the pedestrian connection and the bike rack. I did want to ask the applicant about the art proposal that they have for this site. If you could elaborate on that.
Yes, we're doing a raised tower on the side of the building that faces Telegraph Road. And then also along that same side, there's going to be a herringbone detail within the building wall. So we're looking to submit to the Art Commission. If you can zoom in, it's on the top left exterior elevation. That's the drive-through window. That's where the herringbone is, and that's the raised tower there. But we'll be submitting to the Art Commission here within the next few weeks.
Ellen, how much additional foot is the tower going to be from what you originally proposed?
It looks to be about 4 foot higher than our typical elevation, Terry.
Okay, and
about 20 feet 4, which is the next line right below that.
okay, I just want the commission will defer to the Arts Commission for a final recommendation, but I wanted to make sure they were aware of what you were proposing.
Sure.
Was there anything else, Mr. Bryce, or the petitioners on site plan before we go back to the Planning Commission?
I don't have anything, Terry.
And I don't have anything further unless there's more questions.
So if we could just go back to the colored landscape plan, and yep, thanks. And we'll turn it back to the chair.
Okay. Any site plan comments from the commission? Additional site plan
Through the
comments?
chair. Yeah,
Yes.
through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Go ahead.
I think this plan does, this site plan does meet our review standards as far as what I can see. And I think the other businesses will also benefit from having Chick-Fil-A there. So all in all, I think it will work out fine. Thank you.
I have.
Fair, this is Commissioner Willis.
Go ahead, Commissioner Willis.
I think at the last meeting, I brought up a concern with the amount of available parking. And I noticed the picture that it only had a few cars there. I've driven that site twice. There are even fewer cars there. So it was not a cherry-picked picture of the amount of parking available. It just reinforced my belief that this is a perfect, setting for it. So giving it kudos because it does address a parking problem. And I thank you for it.
I did have a question on this. I think you called it an emergency exit where on the north side where it narrows down to the 2 drive lanes. Is that the idea? If there is an ambulance situation or a fire truck, they would just temporarily block that driveway and be able to get to the cars? I don't remember that. Was that in the site plan last week or last meeting?
I can at least start to respond. We had a considerable discussion with the fire marshal, and his main concern was providing the extra 20 feet on the east and west side so that if they had to attack the building with their fire apparatus, there was proper distance for hoses and fire control. If there was an emergency in the north drive-through lanes, they felt comfortable providing their EMT vehicles on the private access drive could park there, and they could get a gurney in through that 7-foot wide pedestrian access that will be ADA accessible. So that met their concerns about getting access from the north. And they were, with the new traffic flow pattern, that north lane will be the escape lane, but the fire department did not need to access the building from the north. They have access from the east, west, and south, and they could park their EMT vehicle on the private access drive and get a gurney across should there be a medical emergency somewhere in the north stacking lanes.
Okay, makes sense. It looks right to me. I just appreciate the explanation. One additional just practicality question. With the new traffic plan, makes a lot more sense to me. I'm glad you zoom out so you can see what's happening. How big of signs are you proposing? Because I think there's not landscape islands. They're just striped out areas along the ends. This would be the east ends of all those parking rows. Is that a small sign? Like, will people know how will people know what they're supposed to do? I guess is what I'm wondering.
Okay,
if you have that situation anywhere else, any other locations.
Okay.
So where you see the stars, so the first star on the top left, directional sign. And I guess to answer your first question, what is the size of the signs? If you envision like your typical handicap sign, right? That's a typical directional sign that we have in a setting like this and offsite in a setting like this as well. During our grand opening week and following up until traffic patterns get to more of a normal level, we typically partner with a local agency for people out there doing traffic control as well. Again, all concerned about the safety of the customers once they start getting into a typical traffic flow pattern and understanding how the traffic should flow going into and out of Chick-Fil-A. There's that person component as well. But we did talk with the landlord about, as you mentioned, those are not islands, those are just striping. So the signs that we're proposing would be your typical size for a handicap parking spot. And it would be on a pole within that striped area.
And Justin, I don't know if you've spoken to our sign official, but you want to make sure that whatever you're proposing, we do not deal with signage during the site plan review.
Right.
And just make sure it's consistent with what they allow.
Understood.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the giant yellow star that's as big as 1.5 parking spaces and the reality of what that sign is, without talking about signs.
I
of course.
had it down to scale, and then I was like, "Oh, you can't even see that." So I had to put obnoxious stars on there. But some of those, and you can't see it, but some of those stars are on islands. Like the one, I think all the ones along the blue line as you come in, that first one, and then the next one, those are in islands. And then the top left one, if you go all the way up to the red one, that one's in an island as well.
So we tried to place them in existing islands where we could.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Commission, any other comments or questions? Well, I think this is a good site plan. Drive by this, notice it so much more now since I hear about this proposed restaurant, and it is a bare, ugly corner right now. So I think this is going to be a nice improvement with all the additional landscaping.
Thank you.
Jeff, do you have a recommendation?
For the site plan, yes, I do, sir. With regard to PSP 21-0003, the Planning Department does recommend favorable consideration of the site plan review request of GPD Group on behalf of the owner, RPT Realty, to construct a 4,978 gross square foot Chick-Fil-A restaurant with drive-through, property located 28550 Telegraph Road. Subject to the following conditions. Subject to approval of PSLU 21-0003 by the City Council. Subject to the receipt of waivers from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 25 foot of front yard building setback, 75 feet required, 50 feet proposed. Cross-access and parking agreement with the owner of the property for the balance of the parking spaces required. Landscaping must be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy unless the season of year does not permit installation. In that instance, a bond must be submitted to the building department to cover the cost of installation, and a temporary certificate of occupancy shall be given. Upon completion of the landscaping and approval of the same by the planning department, the bond will be returned and the final certificate of occupancy shall be given. Exterior lighting will be shielded to prevent spillage of glare onto adjacent property. Photometric lighting plans shall be submitted for review by the planning department prior to this item going to City Council. Petitioners provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant material. Petitioners execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscape and parking areas both on site and in right-of-way, which includes maintenance of any stormwater detention system. Petitioners implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Approval of the site plan and/or building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed sign. Bike rack shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, Paragraph 12. Site shall be designed and developed to contain public works of art in accordance with Section 5.22-5, Public Art, Article 4, General Requirements of the Zoning Ordinance. Building is to be constructed in accordance with submitted elevations that are attached to the site plan. And hours of operation shall be 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., Monday through Saturday, closed on Sunday. That concludes this presentation.
This is Commissioner Rob Willis. Mr. Spence, I was under the impression that we had a motion that we would defer some traffic issues to staff too.
I believe, was that not under the special use conditions?
Yeah, the traffic issues will be handled under the special land use portion.
Okay. Thank you.
May I have a motion?
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
I'd like to make favorable recommendation for PSP
2022-0003.
Through the chair, this is Rob Willis. I support.
Okay, we got a favorable recommendation by Commissioner Huntington, supported by Commissioner Willis. Have a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Dr. Stevens Gunn,
Support.
Mr. Willis,
Support.
Mr. Culpepper,
Support.
Mr. Huntington,
Support.
Mr. Martin,
Support.
and Mr. Griffith.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a favorable recommendation for PSP 21-0003.
Thank you.
The next items are PZR 21-003 and PSP 21-0004 for petitioner ANS Properties for the property on 12 Mile Road. And again, Mr. Bryce will make this presentation.
So this is located at the address 29070. I'm sorry, back up a little bit. So this is located at 12 Mile between Fairfax and Marshall. So the rezoning is for that main parcel as well as 29070 Fairfax. The existing zoning on site is RA, single family residential, B, vehicular parking, and OS, office service. The rezoning request is to rezone 1.17 acres of land from RA, P, and OS to B3 general business with a P parking buffer. The site plan review request is to construct a 9,400 gross square foot Walgreens with a drive-through pharmacy.
And if I may, through the chair, just a point of clarification on the rezoning request. Because we are looking at two separate zonings on this property, B3 and P, the B3 general business will be the 1 acre minimum size that we would normally require. Just wanted to make sure that that was understood.
This is a closer up aerial of the site. The structures on the main parcel, the house and the garage are no longer there. The site is mostly vacant. And then you can see the single family house in the northwest that is part of this development proposed to be. Future land use shows two future land uses on the site: moderate density single family and local mixed use. These are the current and proposed zonings for the property. So this property was rezoned in 2017 for a medical office building. That development never occurred. So the property features OS along the frontage of 12 Mile with several vehicular parking zonings in the rear. That was intended to serve as a parking buffer. And then you can also see that single family house that's currently existing in the northwest corner. For the proposed zoning, you can see that B3 along the frontage of 12 Mile and extending back. As Jeff mentioned, that B3 is 1.0 acres, and then there's a P parking buffer along the rear of the site. This is the site plan. I think at our study meeting, we called this the alternate, but now this is the main site plan. So the original site plan did feature drive entrances along Marshall and Fairfax at the north end of the site. These have been reduced, so they're no longer across from single family residences. There's really no other big significant changes from the site. So we do have the Walgreens store in the center, the 4-car pharmacy stacking along the northern edge. We do have a screen wall along the northern property line. One noticeable change is that the applicant has been in discussions with local neighbors, including the single-family house owner on the immediately northwest of the site. So they've been working with him, and through the discussions, they're actually proposing to put in a wooden fence 5 feet off the property line. So they do have that called out there. I believe that neighbor is more agreeable to a wooden fence than a brick wall. And then on the western side of the property, we do have their loading zone and a trash compactor. They do not have a dumpster. They don't have any food that gets spoiled. And the trash compactor and the loading zone are both in gated wooden enclosures. They do have the bike rack, 2 of them in fact, and then they do have a pedestrian connection, and they are constructing sidewalks on Marshall and Fairfax streets. This is a updated landscaping plan in color. It does show the revised layout. It does show the residential landscape buffer and that screening fence on the northwest side. Here are the elevations. I don't believe they've changed. You can see the wooden enclosure for the loading zone and the trash compactor. They do meet our minimum requirements for that first 3 feet to be made of a durable material along the base of the building. We do have a photometric plan on site. They do show a 0 at the property lines. And we do have, you can take any kind of questions and comments. I don't know if Paul, if you have anything from your team you would like to add. In particular, please note your discussions with local residents in the area.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Thanks, Kyle. I first want to start off, we've got our same team as we had 2 weeks ago with us. We have Alex Orman, our architect engineer, Jamie Schmidt from Walgreens, Frank Audish, one of the proposed developers, as well as our traffic study experts, either Julie's on or Bandon Aon. So they'll be happy to answer any questions that are in their billywhack, and we'll hopefully get you a proper response. I just want to start by saying this has been a interesting experience. We've enjoyed working with staff and had multiple Zoom meetings, taking a lot of direction from them from the get-go. We did go with this, what was formerly the alternative plan. I think this is a better fit from the concern as it relates to any sort of traffic impact on the neighborhood. We've also increased the size of the B3 proposed rezoning to 1 acre. We took your suggestion and we did go and knock on doors last weekend. You should have in your possession, Kyle, a copy of a petition in favor signed by a number of neighboring residents, including some that are the Northeast residents, as well as directly across the street on Fairfax, and then a number of homes on, on Marshall, and then a number of homes on Fairfax. Frank, if Frank is on the call, he'll be able to give you a little more insight we had with discussions. I will tell you, we did meet with Mr. Mohammed. He's the gentleman in the northwest corner, if you remember, who voiced his concerns at the last meeting. Coming out of that meeting, he would prefer more of a residential look, which I think was discussed at the last meeting by the Planning Commission. The particular material, residential in nature, yes. That particular wood or color, we are working with him to propose something to staff that would both meet his expectations as well as the city's. It's a very nuanced change, but if you stay on this slide, we have proposed to move the screen fence not right on the property line in the northwest section. It's actually moved 6 feet south. The idea was to give Mr. Mohammed a little more breathing room. He would actually prefer to have grass there, is my understanding, and not the shrubbery or arborvitae that are depicted. We're happy to do whatever the Planning Commission so chooses. We have also provided, and as asked, provided a traffic analysis. In layman's terms, I will summarize it by saying that the traffic impact to 12 Mile is minimal, and the traffic on Fairfax and Marshall, I believe, has 4 a.m. trips and 4 p.m. trips, but I'd let the traffic consultant go on a little bit further in detail with any questions you might have about the traffic study. We are looking for a place to keep Walgreens in the city of Southfield. I'm not sure if everybody at the study session or work session was there, but presuming that they were, Jamie Schmidt, I think, gave you guys an overview of what Walgreens options are. And we're hoping that the Planning Commission would approve the rezoning and ultimately tonight a site plan so we can develop this vacant piece and keep Walgreens in the area in the city of Southfield. With that, we'll open up to any questions you might have, and I'll try to direct them to the appropriate people as you present them.
Through the chair, this is Planner Crode. I have a couple questions of Paul. Paul, would you be able to flip-flop the arborvitae, put it on your side of the property, and just have the fence? I think that would create additional sound buffering from the neighbor to the north.
Sorry, I was going to say yes. The answer is yes. Subject to Alex telling me we don't have enough room, the answer would be yes. We have no problem doing it.
And then I'd like to see that well, it doesn't need to be arborvitae, but some type of screening hedge wrapped down Fairfax Street so that the drive-through area and those parallel parking spaces, any light shining from the cars is screened from crossing over on the west side of Fairfax Street.
Chair, this is Alex Warman. Yes, I don't see any problem to do so because we have about 5 feet in width between the back of the curb and the proposed fence. So we definitely can do something like that.
And then I'd like some additional hedge screening along the Fairfax side.
Yes, we'll do that.
And then I just noticed that the sidewalk actually comes onto your property and then exits back into the right of way.
Yes, and
okay, go ahead. Is there a transformer or something there?
Yes, there's a big boxes of the electrical and the AT&T and you name it. So we just try to, we cannot go through without so many relocations and problems with those utilities.
I understand. I just the reason I bring it up is we'll have to check with the city attorney, but we might need some type of pedestrian cross access.
Sure.
For people to legally walk on the sidewalk that's on your property.
Yes, we're gonna create. We will prepare the easement and.
Yeah. Okay. If you could just do that, that would be great.
Yes.
And those are just, I wanted to make sure that we touched on those before we went to the commission comments. Thank you. So I'm sorry, through the chair, we should really act on the rezoning request first and then go to the other items.
Okay. This is a public hearing. We'll open this up to the public at this time.
Okay, so again, if I may, to the public, if you can just hold off for a second, if you're currently on the line, we do ask that you give your name and address for the record, and then you would have 3 minutes to make your comment. To those who are also watching on cable, the line is now open. The telephone number is shown on the slide that's currently on the screen, the number to call in on, as well as the access code. And then with that, again, I do have a number of people on the attendee list. I don't know if anyone on the current attendee list or who has called in would like to make a comment with regard to this item. Again, give us your name, your address for the record, and then you can proceed with your comment.
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening. My name is Tom Deco. Address is 29053 Fairfax and 29069 Fairfax. I own both the homes, the first two homes west of the project on Fairfax. And I object to this zoning change request. I have families that are living in those two homes with kids, and it will affect their quality of life, and it will also decrease the value of my homes and others in the area because it's a residential area. Now, my concerns are there will be a lot of traffic, trash, large delivery trucks, a lot more noise, and basically it will be detrimental to the residential community. And I don't understand why Walgreens is only a block east of this project. Why do they have to move? They seem to be perfectly fine where they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment with regard to PZR 21-0003?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, please provide your name and address for the record.
My name is Mark Spalter. My address is 29165 Marshall. I'm about 5 houses north of where the project is going to be. And pretty much what the last gentleman said reiterates everything that I have to say and my problems with them changing the zoning there. It is a residential area. Marshall Street, as it is right now, is a cut-through street from 12 Mile to Greenfield and from Greenfield to 12 Mile. You put a pharmacy on the corner there, and you're going to have much more traffic coming off. And I'm not sure where their entrances and exits are going to be, but if they're off the side streets, again, you're going to have a lot new traffic coming through there. Yeah, the trash, the noise. I imagine that there's going to be a larger rodent problem with the trash. And you guys say you're putting in a compactor, but that doesn't have anything to do with the people that come out of the store, open up their packages, and just throw their trash on the ground. I get trash from all the restaurants and all the businesses that are on Greenfield. They come up over the brick wall. So it's a real problem. It'll be a real mess. Right across the street, there's 2 child daycares. With all that traffic going on, it doesn't seem like a real safe thing for all these children. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Would anyone else like to make a comment? We'll just wait another moment here. Again, is there anyone else who would like to make a comment on PZR 21-0003 for Walgreens? Okay, Mr. Chairman, it appears that we have no other comments this evening on this item.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing at this time. If you could, I think it'd be important to quickly address the reason Walgreens is moving so close to the other location. Maybe a quick summary of the changes and why it makes sense for Walgreens.
Yes, Jamie, are you able to address that?
Well, he's trying to say something. Jamie, just unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So right now we are currently about a half of a block away from us, from our current in our current location. We have been trying to negotiate with the landlord to decrease our rent, which is extremely high, and without the ability to reduce the rent, we will have to close the store. The current landlord is in bankruptcy, so the building is in receivership, and which makes the banks negotiate with us, and they are not negotiating at all. So our lease is up in November of 21, and we anticipate if we can't get this relocation, we will end up closing the store sometime after that. We are a neighborhood pharmacy. We always put our stores in neighborhoods. We very seldom go in large retail developments. So we want to be close to our customers, and I understand that there might be a little bit more traffic, but the trucks are scheduled. I think I provided a truck schedule to you. The scheduled trucks are from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the morning, and we receive another truck on Wednesdays on 8 a.m. They take about 30 minutes to unload, so they will be gone before noon. And the garbage delivery, the city controls, and that's usually at night. So the store's typically closed when the garbage trucks come by. The hours will be the same as they are currently, which is Monday through Friday, 8 to 10. And then on Sunday, it's open 9 to 9. Pharmacy has restricted hours, so it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Monday through Friday, and then it is 10 to 6 on Sunday.
Jamie, this is Planner Crow. Can you address, you have routine people going out on your site to clean up trash and debris that may be left from customers?
We do. It's part of our agreement with our landlord that we have contracted service to do snow removal and landscaping and sweeping of the lot. Our employees actually go out and police trash that's dropped outside of the store.
And then this is a downsize in square footage from your previous store, I think. Could you just kind of summarize when someone pictures the big corner store that this is probably a smaller version?
This is a 10,000 square foot store. Our normal size is about 15,000. Part of the problem with the decreasing sales is that everybody is starting to sell the stuff that we call the front end, which is soda pops and potato chips and toothpaste and stuff like that. So our front end sales have dropped, and what our attempt here is to do is to downsize the store and take the SKU numbers that are high velocity SKU numbers and keep them in play and get rid of the 30% of the SKUs that don't move at all.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, this is Paul Weisberger. Could I have, is it appropriate if I could have our traffic experts address the projected traffic off of Fairfax and Marshall?
Yes.
Okay, if Bandon or Julie are on the phone, now would be the time to speak.
Hi, this is Bandanan. So we looked into this study and the level of service and also like the driveway spacing and as well as the drive-through queuing. For the two driveways on Marshall Street and Fairfax Street, we do not anticipate a lot of traffic or any cut-through traffic. We think the neighborhood residents are maybe going to use these two driveways on Fairfax Street and Marshall Street to access this Walgreens, but not other people around because they will mostly use the driveway on 12 Mile Road. And we looked into the queuing on 12 Mile Road and level of service in the driveway intersection. And we, from the review, we don't see like any significant queuing. What do you see?
This is Planner Crow. Do you have a percentage of anticipated vehicles coming in and out of 12 Mile versus Marshall Street and Fairfax Street?
Yes. So we think like it would be like 10% of the total site trips. Trip generation will use like the Marshall Street and Fairfax Street to coming in and out to north, which would be basically 4 trips during the M and 4 for the PM during PM peak hour.
Yeah, I think that's important to say that 10% is estimated on Fairfax and Marshall, and based on your average daily traffic and your PM and AM peaks, we're talking about 4 additional cars.
Yes, and
if you really looked at what was previously proposed for the office, a medical office building, it's probably not much of a difference, but I think it's important for the public to understand what the actual anticipated volume of traffic is in and out on Marshall and Fairfax Street.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's not 10% on each side. That would be 5%, probably on each.
5% each on Fairfax Street and Marshall Street. 10% like altogether for any traffic coming in from north and going to north using these 2 neighborhood streets. Yes.
Yep. And I also think, and I apologize if I'm talking out of turn, Chairman. Please stop me if I am. But I want to address some of the questions that came up. But and Jamie, I think, brought this up last time, and we mentioned it earlier. Terry did, that the trash that we're referring to is not of the stinky restaurant, grocery store trash. This is a compactor which is going to be smashing paper products and plastic. Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Commission, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Yes.
Okay, I think in Southfield here, we're trying to make it more walkable. I think having a neighborhood pharmacy helps that cause. And I guess one issue I did hear today that I have a problem with is the wood fence. Can you explain a little bit about this wood fence you're talking about putting up? What type of fence?
Yes, this would be the proposal, and we're willing to work with obviously the Planning Commission and staff, but the neighbor we're trying to be sensitive to as well is what we want is a residential feel there. Now, whether that has to be wood or that could be a more durable product like a PVC white fence, our objective was to satisfy both the Planning Commission and the neighbor. I can't tell you that the neighbor has made his official selection, nor does he necessarily have the authority to, but we're trying to accommodate both the residential look and our neighbor's request, as well as the suggestion to possibly go to residential fencing at the work session.
Yeah, and this is Planner Crode, Mr. Huntington. Again, what would be required is a 6-foot high concrete wall. And we found that when those walls are immediately adjacent to residential properties, the residents more often than not in favor a residential type of fence. And again, whether it's we had across the street when we went with the daycare, they had a dog-eared board on board, kind of a high-end residential fence that the neighbor was happy with. If the neighbor proposed vinyl type of fence, as long as it meets our residential fence standards, we could sign off on it. I think the thing was the neighbor did concern about not wanting to be next to a prison wall. He may or may not have used that term. He didn't want the concrete masonry wall, and we had suggested combination of residential fence and landscaping, and he seemed to be pleased with that. The council does have that ability as a wall substitution to allow that, and we have been successful in many other places doing that.
Okay, I think the neighbor would be very upset maybe 3 years from now if they decide to put a basic stockade fence up there. because we know what it's going to look like a few years down the line. High quality wood fence is fine, cedar or board on board of high quality wood. It does make a big difference. But as far as a basic stockade fence, I'm totally against it.
Yeah, and I'll just assure you that we do not allow stockade fences. That's not one of our approved fence materials for residential.
Great. Okay. All righty. Thank you.
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
Let me say, Paul, thanks a lot for taking in consideration some of our requests. And again, historically, Walgreens has been on a corner street, not in a residential. But I understand perfect what you're trying to do here. And let me compliment you on going to the neighbors, talking to the neighbors, and getting the buy-in, which would have been nice if some of those neighbors that you talked to, specifically the person that you're trying to appease with the grass and the fence, it would have been nice if he would have came on tonight and supported this. The two people that came on was in not support, but judging from your conversation, you have majority of the support from the people on Marshall and Fairfax. So I'm hoping that when this goes forward to the council, that they do come forward and speak, because as I said, this is to me, this has to be a buy-in from the residents and for the city council to go forward with it. But I like the proposal. I think you addressed the issue about the trash is not rodent material. I like the idea of the people that probably will be using Fairfax and Marshall will probably be the residents. The people that's coming in to that store would probably be coming in off of 12 Mile. So looking at the traffic study, looking at what you proposed, I think this is a good rezoning. Again, you're trying to keep the people in Southfield happy. It's a walkable place people can get to. And I think it's a good proposal. And I applaud you for going extra mile and talking to the neighbors. And hopefully those ones in accord will come forward and speak at the council meeting that you talked to. Thank you, but I am in support of this rezoning. Thank you, Chair.
This is Geraldine Stevens-Gunn to the chair. I'd like to, first of all, thank you all very much for the extensive packet that you put together in preparation for today's meeting. I enjoyed looking at it. I also like to thank you for deciding to keep the Walgreens in Southfield, because you could have gone a mile in a different direction. So we thank you for that. And I also appreciate that you went out of your way in order to meet with the residents to ensure that there is some community buy-in. So I appreciate that, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Rob Willis, and I think my only comment is compare what we're going to have to what we have there now. It is a vacant field and more than unsightly. So I thank you for the effort, and I think Walgreens will be welcome there.
Okay. If there's no other comments, may we have the planner's recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. So with regard to PZR 21-0003, the rezoning request, Planning Department does recommend favorable recommendation to rezone 1.17 acres of land from RA single family residential to P vehicular park, from RA single family residential, P vehicular parking and OS office service to P vehicular parking and B3 general business for the following reasons. Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan indicates local mixed use and single family residential for the property. Change in zoning would be compatible with and similar to existing adjacent zonings and land uses, and the proposal is in accordance with the standards for rezoning for the property.
Is that everything, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
So used to having a full page of these. Okay. May We ready to entertain a motion from the commission?
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes.
I recommend favorable adoption of PZR 21-0003.
Support, Commissioner Huntington.
All right, we've got a favorable motion by Commissioner Culpepper, supported by Commissioner Huntington. We have a roll call vote.
Dr. Stevens-Gund,
Support.
Mr. Willis,
Support.
Mr. Culpepper,
Support.
Mr. Huntington,
Support.
Mr. Martin, Mr. Martin,
He is saying it now. He's saying support.
I'm sorry?
Support.
Support. Okay, thank you. Mr. Griffith.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you have a favorable recommendation for PZR 21-0003. Now we would move on to the site plan portion. That's PSP 21-0004.
Okay. So most of the items were already discussed in the first part. Any additional questions or comments? Commissioner, staff?
Through the chair, this is Planner Bryce. Could the applicant discuss any plans that they have for the art requirement for this project?
Yes, I believe, Alex, I can't remember if you actually put this in writing, but I believe we were going to donate in lieu of.
Yes, that's intent. Based on the scale of the standard scale of the percentage of the cost of the construction.
Okay, thank you.
To the chair, Mr. Culpepper.
Yes.
With that recommendation of them donating to the art fund, I recommend favorable adoption of PSP 21-0004.
If I may, through the chair to the commission, if I could read the recommendation first, if you're ready for that before any
I
motion.
apologize. My mistake.
Is there any other questions from the commission? I have none. So please read the recommendation.
Yeah, if we could go to the slide with the full recommendation.
Yep. Okay, again, with regard to PSP 21-0004, the site plan review request of ANS Properties LLC on behalf of the owner, El Wazir Properties LLC. The planning department does recommend favorable consideration for the site plan review for the construction of a 9,400 gross square foot Walgreens with pharmacy, property located 29070 Fairfax, Civil Parcel 2412487-035, and Sidwell Parcel 2412478-037 on the north side of 12 Mile between Marshall and Fairfax with the following conditions. Subject to approval of PZR 21-0003 by the City Council. Subject to receipt of the following waivers from the Zoning Board of Appeals. A waiver of 5 to 8.41 feet of landscape side yard along Fairfax, 15 feet required, 10 foot to 6.59 foot proposed. Waiver of 8 feet of landscape side yard along Marshall, 15 feet required, 7 feet proposed. Petitioners to work with the planning department on landscaping in lieu of a wall along Fairfax and Marshall, where across from residential zoning district. In lieu of the required wall along north property line, we recommend a residential fence be permitted, subject to final approval by the city planner. Subject to receipt of a lot combination to join two lots into one from the assessing department. Landscaping must be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan prior to issuance of a certificate of occupancy unless the season of the year does not permit installation. In that instance, the bond must be submitted to the building department to cover the cost of installation, and a temporary certificate of occupancy shall be given. Upon completion of landscaping and approval of the same by the planning department, the bond will be returned and the final certificate of occupancy shall be given. Exterior lighting will be shielded to prevent spillage of glare onto adjacent property. Petitioners provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant material. Petitioners execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for the landscape and parking areas on site and in the right-of-way, should there be any, which includes maintenance of the stormwater detention system. Petitioners implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Approval of the site plan and/or building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed sign. Bike rack shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, Paragraph 12. As noted by the petitioner, they will be making a donation to the art fund in lieu of providing an art piece on the site. Building is to be constructed in accordance with the submitted elevations shown on sheet A-211, and the petitioner will provide an easement for the sidewalk along Fairfax. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We previously had a favorable motion by Commissioner Culpepper, so still looking for a second.
Commissioner Willis, I support.
Okay. So supported by Commissioner Willis. We have the roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin.
I lost
Mr. Martin.
my call.
I'm sorry?
This is Commissioner Willis. He was on my phone. I lost him a short while ago.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Stevens-Gunn.
Support.
And Mr. Griffith.
Support.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, you do have favorable recommendation for PSP 21-0004.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commission.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have the PZTA 21-0002.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you recall at our meeting earlier this month, we had noted that due to a clerical error in publication for medical marijuana facilities in the ODD Development District, that we needed to bring this item back to you just to kind of clean up the clerical error that was made. If you recall, and I'll kind of show the slide here, within this particular table, Table 2, we showed that medical marijuana facilities would be allowed within these various districts within the city. Actually, this is on the Northland site. Permitted in Central Park, permitted in the shopping district, permitted in the innovation district, permitted in the open space district, however, not in the boundary district. So what is shown here on the right-hand side is what was actually published in the newspaper, that we would actually have allowed it within all these various ODDs within the city, the Southfield Tech Corridor, the City Center District, the Downtown Development District, and the Smart Zone, when in all actuality, this particular table should have been flipped to allow for or to X out medical marijuana facilities not being allowed in the first four, but being allowed in the last one. And as you can see under prohibited activities on the left-hand side in yellow, we note that medical marijuana facilities were going to be prohibited in all ODDs except for the Northland ODD. When you look on the right-hand side, this is what the table should have looked like at least with regard to medical marijuana facilities. It should have not allowed in Southfield Tech, not allowed in the city center, not allowed in the smart zone, and then not allowed within the ODD corridors. However, allowed within the downtown development district, which was Northland ODD only. So
And Mr.
again, with
Spence?
regard to how it was actually published in the newspaper versus what actually was intended, we are here this evening to make sure that we remedy that so that, again, just to clarify, medical marijuana facilities from an ODD standpoint are only allowed within the Northland ODD district. And I believe Mr. Croad had a comment.
Yeah, Mr. Spence, I believe that what was published was a summary, and it did not include this table. I think it was the full edited section that went to the clerk's office that included this clerical error. If you recall, I believe because this section was so large, we just did a publish of a summary of the sections, and it referred to this table, but it didn't actually have this incorrect data published. I believe it was what was submitted to the clerk's office as the final approved version was the one that had the error in it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, I misspoke.
Yeah, I want to make sure that the commission and the public knows that this wasn't actually published, but it was submitted to the clerk's office as the official copy with this clerical error in it. But in practicality, what was printed and what was uploaded on the website had the correct version in it. And after discussing this with the city attorney, she suggested that we go through the same process that was adopted to correct this error. And I know Mr. Willis had a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Two comments. One is that Mr. Martin is on another line and he's asking Jeff to unmute him. But I think when we had this conversation before, I was under the impression that you could do this because it was not published as in an administrative way. But the city attorney has decided this is the way to go, so that's the way to go. But I think it could have been done informally because it was not the process was not completed. Hello?
So through the chair, maybe if you wouldn't mind open the public hearing, then we can have further discussion by the commission afterwards.
Okay, we'll open up the public hearing at this time for PZTA 21-0002.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So again, for the public, either already on the line or for those who are watching on cable, this is a public hearing for the zoning text amendment, PZTA 21-0002. The telephone number to call in on is shown on the screen, along with the access code. If you do have a comment on this item, we do ask that you provide your name and address for the record, and then you would have 3 minutes then to make your comments. With that, I do know that we do have people on the attendee list. So if anyone would like to make a comment at this time regarding this text amendment, again, please give your name and address for the record, and then you can continue on with your comment. And Mr. Chairman, we'll just wait another minute or so here to see if anyone else joins in.
Okay, no problem.
And Mr. Martin, you have been unmuted. And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't look like we have any additional callers. I'll just ask one more time. Do we have anyone on the line who would like to make comment on PZTA 21-0002? And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have anyone on the line for public comment for this item.
Okay. Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Any further discussion from Planning Commission, or we will entertain a motion? Oh, sorry. Do you have a recommendation also, Jeff?
Yeah, I do. If you
Any
are
other
ready
discussion?
for the recommendation. All right, with regard to PZTA 21-0002, the Planning Department does recommend, and I'll go to the slide, does make favorable recommendation for the draft dated 3/24/2021 for the following reasons. Proposed amendment will amend Title V, Zoning and Planning, Chapter 45, Zoning of the Code of the City of Southfield by amending Article 4, Section 5.22-3, Overlay Development District, Table 1, Permitted Table of Uses. This amendment specifically addresses correcting a clerical error regarding where medical marijuana facilities are permitted per ODD district and other amendments that may be necessary as needed for the City of Southfield. That concludes this presentation.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Through the chair,
Yes.
Commissioner Huntington, I'd like to make a favorable recommendation for PZTA 21-0002.
Support, Commissioner Culpepper.
Thank you. We have a favorable motion by Commissioner Huntington, supported by Commissioner Culpepper. We have a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin. Dr. Stevens-Gunn.
Support.
And Mr. Griffith.
Support.
And I will go back to Mr. Martin once more. Okay, not hearing him. Mr. Chairman, you do have a favorable recommendation for PZTA 21-0002.
Thank you. And with the
Getting feedback.
next item, I will need to recuse myself and excuse myself from the rest of the meeting here. Have a good night. See y'all later.
Okay, so with Mr. Griffiths recusing himself, Mr. Willis, you are now the chair.
Thank you so much. I believe it is the time to introduce, it looks like 3 items under the Bell's request, PZR 21-0001, PSLU 21-0002, and PSP 21-0001.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is the rezoning, special use, and site plan review request of Bell's Event Studio, LLC, on behalf of the owner, Baba Sammy, LLC. Property located 24624 West 10 Mile Road, and this is on the northeast corner of West 10 in Groton. Current zoning of the property is ERO, Education Research Office. In the zoning request is to rezone 1 acre of land from ERO Education Research Office to B2 Planned Business. The special use portion of the request is to allow for an event center as a place of assembly. And finally, the site plan is to convert the existing bank building to an event center for banquets and other similar uses. This is a closer view of the property itself. You can see the bank building along with the old drive-through on the north-hand side. existing parking as well, both to the south and then to the west. Property for future land use standpoint is technology corridor sub-area. And existing and proposed zoning. As I noted, the current zoning is ERO, Education Research Office, for the property. And the petitioner would like to rezone that property to B2 planned business. It would then be similar to the zonings both to the north and to the east for the balance of the properties, all the way to, well, not all the way, but part of the way toward Telegraph Road. So in essence, what it is that we're looking at making a consistency, instead of having the ERO, being more consistent with the zoning and allowing for a B2 planned business district. From a plan for the site plan and the special land use, this is an aerial photo with the site superimposed over the top, showing the existing parking spaces, the barrier-free spaces, as well as the proposed sidewalk connection from Groden Drive into the property and then to the existing building itself as required. They also provide for a bike rack, which is shown in this portion right here, as well as new landscaping along both Groden Drive and then 10 Mile Road as required by the zoning ordinance. This is a floor plan of the existing building showing how it would be used on the interior. And the elevations. Really not much is going to change with the building. It would look to stay as is. And with that, again, I had noted the special land use. Within the B2 planned business district, this type of use, place of assembly, is allowed again as a special land use under certain conditions. We did find that it did meet the conditions for the special land use, as well as meet the conditions and standards for site plan review. With that, I do know that the petitioner is on the line, as well as the architect for this particular site. So we'd like you to invite you in right now to further explain your project.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Tiffany Bell, and I'm here with my husband, Corey Bell, and we are the owners of Bell Event Studio. It's going to be an event studio and a photography studio as well. And the reason why we decided on this particular location is because we're both residents of Southfield. I am a longtime resident. I was born here and I grew up in the city. And so our main focus was to make sure that we had a space that was in the city of Southfield. We also wanted to have a more upscale event studio. We wanted a space that was for smaller type of events, preferably nine people or less. And we really wanted to have a more intimate, people to have a more intimate, inviting place to have, you know, their different events. So we felt like this would be a good space for us. Also, because there are other locations or retail within this area, we felt like this would be a good spot for our business. It's important for us to be to make sure that we're bringing a thriving business into the area. It's important for us to make sure that the residents are happy with the business. You know, like I said, we are residents of Southfield, and so all we want to do is make sure that we help to you know, be positive and uplift the city by bringing in a business that will help to enhance the city of Southfield. At the previous meeting a couple weeks ago, there were a couple of residents that had spoke during the public comment section, and they had a couple of issues concerning the space. I know one of the issues that they brought up was about that there could be loud music, loitering going on. Just wanted to let you know that this particular space is geared towards some more upscale events, and that there will always be a Bell Event staff member on site during all events from start to finish. And so to make sure that everything is happening in accordingly and with the contract, and if there are any issues, that come up, such as loitering and so forth, then the particular event will be stopped immediately. So we will make sure that, there isn't any issues with, loud music or people outside of the event studio. Also, I wanted to mention something quickly about traffic, because I know someone mentioned about there might be issues with traffic. The majority of events will happen on the weekend, preferably on Saturdays and Sundays, with a few events during the week, but primarily it'll be a weekend establishment. Therefore, there wouldn't really be issues with traffic in terms of primarily most of the traffic is during rush hour time, in the morning and then in the evening, and most of our events would fall at different times, not during that rush hour during the week time. So we feel like, traffic wise, there won't be an issue with that. So we want to thank the Planning Commission for taking the time to look at our business. We're very excited about opening a business in the city. And with that, I will give it to you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. To the commission, I do know at one of our meetings, there was a discussion about the potential for a sidewalk or pedestrian connection from the northwest portion of the building and a concrete walk across the drive-through lane, through the landscape space, to the 15 parking spaces that are north of the building. A study was done on that particular area, and the slope is it's too steep to provide for safe passage, a safe sidewalk in that area. So that is one reason why you do not see a sidewalk connection from the building to the parking spaces that are north and along that existing driveway.
Thank you. This is a rezoning request, so should we have public comment at this point?
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, to the commission, as well as any public that's on, we have 2 public hearings that we have to hold on this particular item, public hearing on the rezoning request, and then a separate public hearing on the special land use. So we will start with the rezoning request. So if anyone would like to currently call in, the telephone number is shown on the screen. You call that number, then use that access code, and then you can get into the meeting itself, and then I can recognize you during this time. Again, we do ask that you keep your comments with regard to the rezoning request, not specific to a site plan issue or a special use issue, but specifically to the rezoning request to B2 plan business. With that, I do have 2 people on the attendee list. And if someone would like to make a comment on this particular item, again, we ask that you give your name and address for the record, and then you would have 3 minutes then to make your comment. So again, if you have a comment with regard to the rezoning request, feel free to give your name and address for the record right now. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, we did get a. I'm off. I'm sorry, I was just interrupted there for a second. Just excuse me just for a moment, please.
Sure.
Yeah, we're just trying to coordinate get Mr. Martin back online.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't see a chat here, so I apologize that.
Well, Jeff, I'll just let you know that Mr. Martin's going to be calling in with his cell phone number, and just make sure you unmute him.
Yeah, it appears that he's on now. He shows up on the attendee list.
Well, he was on through the computer, and then I asked him to call in through the cell phone.
I'm here.
Mr. Martin,
he's on now.
You are on. Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, Mr. Chairman, while we're waiting, I do have a letter that we received today at 3:17 with regard to PZR 21-0001, PSLU 21-0002, and PSP 21-0001 from Christina Robinson. And I will read the letter into the record. It says, "Good afternoon. I am contacting you today to give my reasons for suggesting this plan not be approved. This is a very high traffic intersection, and since the last meeting, there have been several accidents that I'm aware of. There are already multiple late night restaurants, bars on the same plat of land. There is an existing business operating as an event hall less than 1,000 feet away with loud music. This location would contribute to closer loud music, parking lot loitering with chatter, potential violence, alcohol and party mixing, and overall disturbance to myself and others and nearby neighbors. Potential is high that visitors would turn into our community to recover quickly from passing the event center when traveling westbound or stopping too quickly when traveling eastbound, yet again causing accidents. As a community, we struggle with visitors for local businesses coming into our residential area to hide from the police, to engage in illegal activities, public sex, drugs, theft. I sincerely hope that you consider how this will affect the residents of our community and those nearby. Being a resident of the city of Southfield, I hope to maintain integrity and safety in our community. I reside at 24821 Cashmere Street, Southfield, Michigan, 48033. And again, it is signed, thank you, Christina Robinson, Regional Manager, Capital Title Insurance Agency, 255 South Old Woodward Avenue, Suite 1, Birmingham, Michigan. And with that, again, I would ask if we have any other attendees, anyone else who would like to be a part of this public hearing. And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have anyone for PZR 21-0001.
Thank you. For commissioners, do you have any questions?
To the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Mr. Huntington.
Okay. The Bells are taking this empty building, which has been empty for a very long time, and making it a viable business for the city of Southfield. I'm very familiar with this area. I used to live down the street, pass by here multiple times a day. And I know one of the major concerns is about making a left turn out of there. But their business is a very small portion of the continued problems that they had here. Before this, there was a bank there that had continuous flow of traffic all day. But it still worked out. It wasn't that big of a problem. It worked out. I'm not sure. I don't think the Bells have the authority to make changes to a county road. So there's not a whole lot they can do about that. But again, it's been a bank at one time, and it worked out. The other situation, the other issue is noise. And they did, again, I was going to ask again today, but they did reassure that they will have someone supervising each event, which I think is important because people do tend to like to hang around outside after it's over and talk loud and who knows what. But as long as they do have supervision on every event, I think everything will be just fine. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I think it will be a great business for the city of Southfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huntington. Any other comments, Commissioner?
Again, if I may, through the chair, just want to make sure that you reserve your comments just to the rezoning only. Thank you.
Right. Commissioner Culpepper?
Commissioner Culpepper.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect opportunity to have this area rezoned. I don't see a problem with it. It fits the conditions in that area. So I'm in favor of having this rezoned based on the conditions that we have currently on road. This falls right into those conditions. So I support this rezoning 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner comments? Well, I can say that I too support this. I think it's a great place and a great, it's a great situation for that location. Mr. Spence, recommendation?
Yes, thank you. So with regard to PZR 21-0001, the Planning Department does recommend favorable recommendation to rezone 1 acre of land from ERO Education Research Office to B2 Plan Business for the following reasons. Southfield Comprehensive Master Plan indicates technology corridor sub-area for this property. Change in zoning would be compatible with and similar to existing adjacent zonings and land uses. And the proposal is in accordance with the standards for rezoning of the property. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Commissioners, can I get a motion?
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Mr. Culpepper?
I defer to Commissioner Martin. Go ahead.
Excuse me. I recommend favorable approval of PZR 21-0001.
Commissioner Culpepper, support.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Culpepper, support. Roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
And Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a favorable recommendation for PZR 21-0001.
Thank you, Mr.
Now,
Spence.
the next one is we would now need to have a public hearing on the special land use, PSLU 21-0002.
Thank you. Then I think I would probably just ask commissioners if they have any further questions on it, as that's the.
Well, if I may, through the chair, we do have to have a public hearing.
Can we open the public hearing first through the chair before we go to commission?
Then the public hearing is therefore open. And would petitioners need to make additional statements at this point?
No. I think we can hold the public hearing first, close it, and then we can go back to the petitioners if needed.
Yeah, so if I may, through the chair, again to the public, whether you're already on the line or watching on cable, the telephone number to call in on is on the screen along with the access code. So again, if you have any comments on the special land use, PSLU 21-0002, feel free to call in right now. Again, give us your name and address for the record, and then you'd have 3 minutes to make comment. And with that, the public hearing is open, and Mr. Chairman, we'll wait a minute or so and see if anyone gets on the line.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone currently on the line who would like to speak to the special land use portion? If so, then please give your name and address for the record. And Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have anyone who would like to call in or comment on PSLU 21-0002.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. For commissioners, do you have any questions?
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Commissioner Huntington.
As far as special land use, I think the location of this place, this business, the size, intensity, and the Pierce operation fits right into the other uses in that area. So I think it does meet our special land standards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To the chair, Commissioner Culpepper.
Commissioner Culpepper.
This proposal meets the special land use conditions, so I'm in support because it does meet the conditions that's required. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
This is Planner Crow to the applicant. Can you just can you restate your hours of operation, please?
Sure. We'll be open from Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. and Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Stevens Gunn. I have a quick question.
Commissioner Gunn, go ahead.
You just gave the hours of operations. Is someone going to be there during all those hours or just when you have events?
Someone will be there just during the event time. So if there's an event, say for example, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., someone will be there to let the whoever's having the event, we will let them in and we'll be there for the entire event, and we'll be there until everyone is gone and lock the doors at that time.
And Ms. Bell, could you discuss your typical photograph studio hours as well?
Yes, for the photography, it is by appointment only. And typically, most people book that during the day, or it'll work around events that we have planned. So we won't be doing photography at the same time as the event is going on unless they've hired us for those services.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, commissioners, any questions? Then I believe we're ready for motion. I'm sorry. I'm
Through the
taking a
chair.
step out of through the chair. Then are we ready for recommendation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to PSP 21-0, I'm sorry. I need to flip over here. With regard to PSLU 21-0002, the special use request of Bell's Event Studio on behalf of the owner Baba Sami LLC to allow an event center as a place of assembly, property located 24624 West 10 Mile Road. The Planning Department does make a favorable recommendation for the special use request, subject to the following reasons and conditions. Subject to approval of PZR 21-0001 and PSP 21-0001 by the City Council. Hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Excuse me, 8 a.m. to midnight, Friday and Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. Submitted special use with any conditions recommended by the Planning Department and Planning Commission will be of such size and character that it will be in harmony with the appropriate and orderly development of the B2 Planned Business District. The location, size, intensity, and periods of operation of the proposed use is designed to eliminate any possible nuisance likely to emanate therefrom, which might be adverse to occupants of any nearby permitted use. The proposed use is in accord and spirit of the purpose of the chapter and is not inconsistent with or contrary to the objectives sought to be accomplished by this chapter and the principles of sound planning. Proposed uses of such character and vehicular traffic generated will not have an adverse effect or be detrimental to the surrounding land uses or adjacent thoroughfares. Proposed use is in such character and intensity and arranged on the site so as to eliminate any adverse effects resulting from noise, dust, dirt, glare, odor, fumes. Proposed use will not be adverse to the promotion of the health, safety, and welfare of the community, and the proposed use is designed to be operated so as to provide security and safety to employees of the general public. And that concludes this presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Spence. Commissioners, can I get a motion?
Through the chair, Commissioner Huntington.
Commissioner Huntington.
I'd like to make favorable recommendation for PSL U210002.
Commissioner Culpepper, support.
That motion has been moved and supported. Commissioner Spence, can we get a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
Mr. Willis.
Support.
And Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
So, Mr. Chairman, you do have a favorable recommendation for PSLU 21-0002.
Thank
And
you so much.
now you have the PSP 21-0001.
And that would be the site plan review. Mr. Spence, if I'm correct, we
Yes,
do not have
that
a
is the
public,
site plan, correct.
do not have a public meeting requirement for this one.
We do not.
So I believe I could ask commissioners if they have any questions, any comments.
To the chair, Mr. Culpepper.
Mr. Culpepper?
Do we have the site plan shown, the landscape plan?
Could you bring up the site? Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, while you're doing that. Looking at this site, I think it's a perfect fit. As been mentioned in previous meetings, this has been a vacant building for quite some time, and it's an eyesore. So with what they are proposing is an asset to the community and I think to the neighborhood, and with the landscaping and what they propose to do, I think this is a great place to have this type of building. So again, I'm in 100% support of this, and I think she'll do a great job. And she answered a lot of questions that may have come up about noise and whatever. So I think she'll be a good neighbor. And she is a Southfield resident, both of them are, and I think they are adding to the city. So I'm in 100% support of this, and thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Culpepper. Mr. Martin, I believe you had a comment.
Yes, on the, I guess that would be the east corner, I'm sorry, the west corner at the building. There's quite a drop off from the sidewalk area down the parking lot. Are you planning on doing anything with that? Because it looks like it really could be a safety hazard, the way the sidewalk, the gravel part of the driveway goes. Are there any plans for that?
You're breaking up, Mr. Martin. I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of that.
Yeah, I could, this is Planner Crode. I had raised this issue about a pedestrian connection to the northern parking spaces, but after further review and discussion with the architect, as Mr. Martin has pointed out, there's a severe grade change that wouldn't be practical for ADA compliance. So we do not recommend that pedestrian connection be made. I think the driveway slope is much easier for pedestrians to access should they need to, but to have a dedicated crosswalk and sidewalk through the median, I don't believe we can meet safe grades at that point.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Hearing no questions, Mr. Spence, do you have recommendations for us?
I do. Just give me a moment here. Okay, with regard to PSP 21-0001, the Planning Department does recommend favorable consideration of the site plan review request of Bell's Event Studio, LLC, on behalf of the owner, Baba Sami, LLC, to convert an existing bank building to an event center for banquets and for other similar uses. Property located 24624 West 10 Mile Road, northeast corner of West 10 Mile and Groden Drive, with the following conditions. Subject to approval of PZR 21-0001 and PSLU 21-0002 by the City Council. Receive a waiver from the Zoning Board of Appeals for 24 feet of side yard setback on the east side of the building, 50 feet required, 26 feet proposed. And if I just may note, the reason why this waiver is required is because with the change in the zoning district from ERO to B2, the standard setbacks for buildings increased. So while we would end up having a legal nonconformity should the rezoning go through, we just felt that it needed to be cleaned up, so we actually had a legal side yard setback through the ZBA. So that's why this particular item is in there. Landscaping must be installed in accordance with the approved landscape plan prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, unless the season of the year does not permit installation. In that instance, a bond must be submitted to the building department To cover the cost of the installation, and a temporary certificate of occupancy shall be given. Upon completion of the landscaping and approval of the same by the planning department, the bond will be returned and the final certificate of occupancy shall be given. Exterior lighting will be shielded to prevent spillage of glare onto adjacent property. Petitioners provide a sprinkler system for all landscape areas to encourage preservation of plant material. Petitioner is to execute a perpetual maintenance agreement for all landscape and parking areas on site, including maintenance of any stormwater detention system. Petitioners implement the recommendations made by the Southfield Police Department's Crime Prevention Bureau regarding site security. Approval of this plan, site plan, and building elevations represented herein does not constitute nor guarantee approval for signage. Separate approval and sign permits must be obtained from the building department for any proposed sign. Bike rack shall be installed in accordance with Article 4, Section 5.29, Paragraph 12. The site shall be designed and developed to contain public works of art in accordance with, actually, I don't believe that condition belongs here, because I don't think that the cost of development meets the threshold. Moving on to the next one, the building is to be constructed in accordance with submitted elevations shown on sheet A.201, and hours of operation shall be limited to 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to midnight Friday and Saturday, and 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. on Sunday. And that concludes this presentation.
Mr. Spence, then item 10, the item that has to do with art, then is void. It is not a part of this condition. Am I correct?
Yeah. Again, we have certain thresholds for art requirement, and I don't believe that this particular project would meet that threshold.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'm ready for a motion.
Through the chair.
Mr.
Huntington. I'd like to make favorable recommendation for PSP 21-0001.
Can I hear a second?
Mr. Culpepper, support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Thank you. Mr. Spence.
Yes, I'll do a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, just went out my head. Thank you so much.
That's okay. I saved you. It's late. Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
And Mr. Willis.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, you do have a favorable recommendation for PSP 21-0001.
Thank you so much. I believe that concludes our agenda items. I think the next item those agenda items, the next item is for the approval of minutes for February 3, February 17, and February 24.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I'd like to make favorable, approve the minutes for February the 3rd, 2021, February 17th, 2021, and February 24th, 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Huntington. Do we get a second?
Stevens Gunn,
To the chair,
second.
Commissioner Martin. To the chair, Commissioner Martin, for an exception.
I'll take Commissioner Martin for the approval for the second.
No, that's not an approval. It's for an exception.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, but for one of the minutes, a sentence was added where it stated that I rejoined the meeting, and it's after the chairman had finished the public comment period. I can't tell you which one it was because I don't have the minutes in front of me, but it's a minor change.
Can we then approve the minutes with that minor change?
Yeah.
If I may, through the chair, what date was that? Do you recall?
17th.
The February 17th meeting? And I'm sorry, just again, are you noting that when you came into the meeting was noted in the wrong place, or if you could re-explain that.
It wasn't noted in the minutes, that's all.
Oh, it wasn't noted in the minutes at all. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Then with that modification, can we have the motion for approval supported?
I support with the modification of him not attending meeting on that day be implemented.
Thank you. I believe a roll call vote.
Yes, sir. Mr. Huntington.
Support.
Mr. Martin.
Support.
Dr. Stevens Gunn.
Support.
Mr. Willis.
Support.
Mr. Culpepper.
Support.
Okay, you have approval for your minutes. The next item on your agenda is the public comment portion of the meeting. So if I may, through to the public, anyone who is still on, either on the phone or watching on cable, this is an opportunity for you to make a public comment to the commission. Again, we would ask that you give us your name and address for the record, and then you would have 3 minutes then to comment. The number to call in on is at the bottom, is in the last paragraph on this slide, 1-415-655-0001, and then you can enter the access code 129-531-6001. Mr. Chairman, why don't we just wait a minute or so and see if we have anyone who would like to join the meeting for public comment, and then I'll be back.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, it does not appear that we have anyone on. I guess I'll ask of the 3 people who were shown on the attendee list, if someone would like to make a public comment, if you could please give your name and address for the record, and then you can proceed with your comment. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't appear that we have public for comment this evening.
Thank you so much. That would end our opportunity for public comment. Any items under miscellaneous?
This is Planner Crode. I know 4 of the commissioners signed up for the webinar yesterday and today. And I was just hoping you could give a brief summary of what your thoughts were. I know you guys had some trouble getting on yesterday, and I believe it was being recorded so that you can review what you missed, but I'd be anxious if you thought it was worthwhile or not.
To the chair, this is Commissioner Culpepper.
Yes, through Commissioner Culpepper.
Yeah, Terry, I had some difficulty getting in yesterday, but I finally got in, and I got in from the beginning today. I thought it was a very worthwhile presentation for me because, it reinforced some of the things that you had already taught us. And what I thought was real good is that having the booklet. As he was speaking, we could go through the booklet and look at it. But I thought it was real good. Amy ran a very good host. The information was very knowledgeable. Some of the questions that what people asked were good questions. And a lot of stuff, again, a lot of stuff that we went through, we had been taught by you, but I thought it was very informative. It's like, to me, it was like going to a refresher class, but it was very knowledgeable and I enjoyed it. And thanks for the invitation. And I'm glad I finally got in. Thank you.
Glad to hear. Yep.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
This is Geraldine Stevens Gunn.
Go ahead, Dr. Gunn.
Go ahead, Ms. Gunn.
As a new commissioner, I thought it was a great primer webinar. It was great because it helped lay a foundation for a lot of the things I've heard over the last several months, and it kind of filled in some of the blanks. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. Unfortunately, I didn't have any access issues. I got in probably about 15 minutes before it started on Tuesday. So I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't have any difficulty. But I thought it was very well run. I thought the materials were very good. Thank you very much for extending the invitation.
Yeah, and Dr. Gunn, if you could call my office tomorrow, I'll walk you through what you need to do to get reimbursed, okay?
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And Mr. Crow, just to add mine to it, what it did was gave order to some concepts we've used for the last few years. And when someone laid it out in an elementary form, I really had a complete picture of what we were talking about. So yeah, I appreciate it too. So thank you so much. It was a good suggestion. And I'm the person who had the biggest problem. I could not get on yesterday at all, but I watched the 2-hour repeat of it a few hours later, and
oh, great!
It was done really well.
Great.
I enjoyed it, Commissioner Martin. I enjoyed it also, and I think it was very educational for me, and I think it'll be very helpful.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you guys, it's always good to take a step back and get a refresher and hear from some different people. I also find that the comment period, you'll find that other communities are dealing with the same challenges, or you realize that our community, is on the forefront on some of these issues. The only other thing I'm going to have to say is that if in the future, if you want to sign up for any additional classes, we've been notified by our accounting office. They would prefer that you RSVP to us and let us do the registration for you. So we will, we have a procedure worked out to get you reimbursed this particular time, but if you're going to sign up for future classes, please coordinate through me. And we've had a long night, so I won't need to say anything else. And I appreciate everybody's patience tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, just one thing from me, if I may, through the chair. The next meeting is going to be on the 14th of April. I'm actually going to have a little much needed R&R, some time off. And so your next scheduled Planning Commission meeting will be April 14th.
Well deserved, Jeff. Enjoy it. You deserve it.
And again, I want to echo what Terry said. We had a lot of items on the agenda tonight, late night, and just appreciate your patience. And I guess that's it. I just appreciated your patience with the process this evening.
Thank you.
We don't know if that'll be an in-person meeting yet, do we? Because the current thing is through April 5th.
Yeah, again, it's likely that the mayor will declare a state of emergency for the city, and at least through April, we'll probably be doing this virtually, and it possibly could be another month or two after that, but we will keep you posted.
Just out of curiosity, have many of the members of the commission been vaccinated for the virus?
I would prefer that if you want to do that, we don't talk about that publicly. Yeah. And right. If you want to let me know, that's fine, and we can keep track of that before we actually meet again. But I would suggest we don't talk about that publicly.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Well, then I deem this meeting adjourned, and see you guys, I guess, on the 14th.